On April 11th, we received fabulous news from Editas Medicine and again a world first type of treatment that is an in vivo CRISPR treatment, this time for the first pediatric patient who is enrolled in the BRILLIANCE clinical trial of EDIT-101 for a degenerative disease that often results in blindness as the child or the person grows up into an adult. Editas in vivo CRISPR treatment is the EDIT-101 program, and it is for the disease of Leber congenital amaurosis, which is a retinal degenerative disorder. Although I have a PhD in biomedical engineering and over 17 years of working experience in the healthcare industry, I do not intend to give you investment advice. Please consider your own risk profile before making any investments and research your investments wisely. To appreciate really how groundbreaking this first treatment in a pediatric patient is, we have to consider that there are currently no approved treatments for this disease. Obviously, the potential blindness resulting from the disease or the severe vision impairment, of course, has a humongous influence on the quality of life of the patient. And in this case, again, it's also, of course, the parents of this child that we owe much gratitude and thanks to for enrolling their child. Of course, you can imagine, as any parent, there's a lot at stake when you enroll your child in an experimental clinical trial. Though, of course, if this works, their child will not suffer, hopefully, any of the vision impairments because the gene editing will actually correct the gene defect and the child will grow up to be just, well, with perfect vision. So there's always, I can imagine, having children myself, the difficulty in deciding, do you enroll your child or not? And in this case, well, personally, from the point of view of being a parent, I really thank these patients, these parents, for enrolling their child in the study, because this is truly trailblazing, hopefully a treatment that will have a profound impact on many children that are born with this type of disease. And this is precisely why medical doctor Thomas S. Ailman basically described this as enrolling the first pediatric patient in the BRILLIANCE clinical trial is an important step towards bringing potentially life-changing treatments to children with genetic retinal disease. Absolutely true. Couldn't agree more. And just to put a little bit more context as to how much more emphasis on safety, etc., is being actually executed before enrolling the first pediatric patient, I'd like to point out here that the statement here that this first child who was enrolled in the study received the mid-dose because obviously, while in the initial clinical studies, the safety profile is of absolute importance. And this first child was basically enrolled in this study only following a independent data monitoring committee endorsement based on data that has already been obtained in the mid and low dose with adult patients having received the same treatment. So this is the absolute right approach because obviously for a child, all the life still ahead of them, you really want to make sure that this treatment is foremost safe and does not influence or harm the growing child in any other different ways. And Editas Medicine plan to basically go ahead with the clinical trials. They are planning to complete the testing of the pediatric mid-dose in the first half of this year, 2022, and then expect to initiate the testing of the pediatric high dose also later on this year. If we take a quick look on clinicaltrials.gov about this particular study, of course, we see that it is a phase 1-2 clinical study, and the purpose is, of course, to evaluate the safety and tolerability and efficacy of the single escalating doses of EDIT-101, which is administered via sub-retinal injection. So it is an injection actually into the eye, just below the retina. And in terms of participants, we have 18 participants to be enrolled. It is a non-randomized interventional study, of course, because treatment is administered. And in this open-label single ascending dose study, they enroll adult and pediatric patients, meaning from the ages of 3 to 17, and of course, well, adults. So these 18 participants will be broken down into 5 cohorts and receive basically 3 different dose levels in this study. And again, the purpose of the Edit 101 program is to provide a novel gene product in vivo that is designed to eliminate the mutation in the so-called CEP290 gene, which results in the retinal degradation that ultimately results in severe vision impairment, if not blindness altogether. So this study has already started in September of 2019 and is expected to be completed by March 2024. And just as a reminder, already in October of 2021, Editas Medicines had a press release on preliminary data to be presented from this BRILLIANCE study with their Edit 101 in vivo gene candidate. And it is remarkable to actually see that the treating physicians involved in this study, notably Williams Chatios, who is professor of ophthalmology at the Massachusetts Eye, Ear, and Harvard Medical School, actually said that he is highly encouraged by the early efficacy signs of the mid-dose cohort, which suggests positive biological activity and the potential actually for clinical benefits. So, of course, clinical benefits is what we're after in the end. So, again, all of this shows that gene editing as such, but in particular in vivo gene editing, as Editas Medicines are investigating here, aims at treating diseases for which there are currently no treatments at all. And that is the profound power and benefit of gene editing treatments as such. Of course, the companies that bring these treatments to a commercial market will be able to benefit hugely, but I think really the true benefit and powerful impact on quality of life is actually on the side of the patients. But nevertheless, also investors stand to potentially benefit handsomely from these treatments. And again, this is just an intermediate update, and we have now seen that the first pediatric patient was dosed, so very encouraging and shows the progress that Editas Medicine are doing. And for those of you who were aware of the recent US Patent and Trademark Office decision on CRISPR patent interference, I'd like you to know that Editas is licensing, or has the license actually, from the Broad Institute, which were actually in this US patent decision actually the winners, if you will. Likewise, there's no denying that the Editas stock price, ticker symbol EDIT, has come down significantly from the highs that we have seen around September 2021. Now, there are always two sides to the story, of course. You can either decide that because the stock price is so low, the company is not doing well, and I would argue nothing could be further from the truth. As an investor, you must realize that clinical research takes time because it needs to be done right. And we can see that Editas make significant progress in their clinical pipeline. Also, they are not going to be impacted by any of the patent issues that some of the other companies may be subject to. And overall, this is not just Editas who have come down in their stock price, it's the entire sector over the past, half year or plus. Now, that means, from my point of view, that Editas Medicine could be an interesting investment, as you get the stock price, or the stock actually, for really cheap. And if you're willing to wait long enough for positive outcomes from the clinical trials, you've had a fabulous entry point. If, however, the risk for you is too high, well, of course, then this is your decision, and it can be the right decision for you. Ultimately, investing or not is always an individual choice that must be based on your personal view of the risks involved, the timeline, and so on. So, if you found this video useful for your investment purposes, I would really appreciate you leaving a like, and if you haven't, subscribing to my channel.